So today I thought I would just give y'all a fun little tour of our gardens. I wanted to wait just a little bit longer into the year to do this so everything was growing really good, but weather in Idaho, it's always a challenge, and this has been a really challenging garden year. So I decided I was just going to go ahead and show the gardens, show you what we've been up to, and then hopefully if they start growing really good, then I'll go ahead and later in the summer give you a tour and how everything's growing and what we're doing at that time.
Oh my gosh! Those are huge!
Now we try to be as self-sufficient as possible, and part of that is growing like this really huge garden, which I absolutely love to do. And so growing a huge garden in northern Idaho is not without its challenges. We have very odd weather here some years, and this is one of those years, and that really affects the garden. So we have to do some extreme measures sometimes to be able to grow the things that we want to grow in our very short growing season. And this year we've had a terribly wet spring, and so it's really set us back. Now, growing a big garden saves us a ton of money on groceries, especially now grocery prices are just going through the roof, and growing all this stuff helps us with our grocery bill immensely. And so, I try to can and preserve all of our vegetables and our fruit and stuff that we eat throughout the year. And so it's definitely a lot of work, but well worth it. So come on, and I'll go ahead and show you what we got going on here. So when we first started this garden, we just tilled it up every year and made our rows. We didn't have any kind of weed control down here really, so I was spending a ton of time weeding. And then also we have our watering system. We just used like a little rain bird that was on the fence, and that just watered the entire garden. It was really insufficient, wasted a ton of water. And where we live at, we don't have this, unlimited amount of water. And so, of course, it was not just watering the plants, it was watering the weeds as well. And so it was just this huge chore to try to keep up with, the weeds. And so after a few years of that, we decided we were just going to go ahead and put weed mat down. And that did help a lot with, of course, with the weeds, but it didn't really do great things for the, for the soil. So I noticed that over the years, the more and more that we tilled this garden and we used the weed mat, the soil condition just declined. Our plants weren't doing good. And so, started doing some research on, like what I could do instead of doing, tilling and using the weed mat. So every spring I go to our recycle place and I get a ton of cardboard boxes and bring up the entire ground with cardboard. And I've been putting rotten hay on it, or straw, or when the kids mow the grass and make them bring the lawn clippings over here, and we've been putting lawn clippings on here and just spreading that out, and it is doing wonders for this garden. We've been doing that for 2 years now. When you dig into this ground here, it's just nothing but earthworms, and since I've started doing that, the plants have just taken off again. We're not having to to water as much. We're using no kind of fertilizer, and the plants look amazing out here. And with our watering system, we finally switched over. We first started with the rain birds, and then we went to the soaker hoses, and that didn't really work. But this year we have gone with a drip tape, and then I ended up getting all of this drip tape from online from a place called, I think it's called Grower Solution. They had really good prices there, and so we ordered enough of this tape to do both of our gardens. This little area back here is nothing but raised beds, and we've done these years ago. In this first one, we have strawberries, and we have 2 strawberry beds, and then we have an herb bed and stuff over here. And so I haven't really done anything with this side of the garden with it still has weed mat over here. But this fall, what we're going to do is we're going to take up all of these raised beds and build new raised beds. And then when I do that, I'm going to rip up all of this weed mat and do the same thing. I'm just going to put the cardboard down and the straw down, and then just start working on this area. Mulch really good in between these raised beds. This front garden here, I do not have a lot planted in it on purpose because I want to keep all of our fall stuff in here. So this little area behind me here, this has always been a super huge weedy mess. We have a little seasonal creek that comes right here behind me that goes through this garden, and the weeds grow uncontrollably over here. And so what we done a couple years ago is we went and we built this raised bed all along these rocks here, and then the first year we started out with just hay bales, old rotten hay bales in here. Well, and they weren't actually rotten. But just extra hay bales that we had laying around here, we filled this bed up, just one hay bale at a time. And so the first year that we did that and I tried to plant into the hay bales, like everything died. I just could not water these hay bales enough. And so I finally just give up on it and just let them be. And that's been a couple years ago. And so they have rotted down. And so this year, I went and, kind of packed that down just a little bit and then put dirt on top of them. And then planted things, planted all of my greens, and I have cabbages and broccoli and some squash and zucchini plants planted in here. And we put soaker hoses on top of this one. And then I went and mulched this really good. And this bed is doing really, really well. I'm very, very happy with the way this bed is going. I think I'm going to do some more beds like this because it's just a huge growth difference from this type of a bed versus, what the other things that's going on. And in different beds we have that's just the dirt. Now these plants here, these are some of my dad's seeds that I brought back. These are cabbage collards. They are amazing. You just pick the leaves off and I cook them like you would any kind of collards. Collards are kind of a southern thing, so I guess that's for all those southerners listening. They'll know what collards are. And so we do have some grape vines growing as well. I started these probably 5 years ago, and it's really just not the right type for our area here. They die back every year, and then they grow. And we actually do have some little grapes here. I didn't even see those. We've only had grapes on here 1 year, and it was just probably 2 little clusters, but the chipmunks got over here and ate all of them, and so we did not get 1 grape. But this actually seems like it has a pretty good bit of grapes on it this year, so maybe we'll get some. But it's not the right one for our zone here, and so it just dies back every year. It does, it does grow back from the ground, and apparently we have some grapes growing. But if you are going to get grapes, make sure you get the ones that are for your area or you have this problem. Okay, so back there's the garden. That's just where we were. And then we have this little seasonal creek that's like right here behind me. And this is the area that I turned into my bee garden. Now, when I decided I wanted to do something over here, I wanted it to be all perennials, shrubs, flowers. I did not want to have to worry about coming in here with the bees and, replanting flowers every year. So this area behind me is full of different things like peonies, lupins, cinquefoil. We have lots of roses, echinacea. I love hydrangeas, and so I supposedly found a hydrangea that will grow here. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but I'm not so sure. We'll see next year how it did. And then a bunch more different types of shrubs and flowers in here that I cannot pronounce their names, so I'm not even going to try to butcher it and do it. But yeah, lots of fun things here, different heights, and so this should fill in very nicely. I spread them out really good when I planted these, because they will grow. And I still do have some asparagus popping up in here as well. But I put a couple layers of cardboard down here, and then put 4 inches of wood chips on top. But the problem that we still have over here is, let me walk back to this side over here. Still in the bee garden, but we have this terrible, terrible little weed here. This is thistle. It is terrible. It takes over the gardens. And so really the only major problem that we still have over here is thistle. So the roots of a thistle is a rhizome, and so you can't just pull this thing up because you're not going to get the root. The root goes like, a foot underground, and then it spreads underground, and then it sends up like little suckers, and it just spreads. And so if you pull one of these up and break the roots, then it just spreads out even more. And I don't want to spray anything over here. I like to keep things organic. And so what I've been doing is when I find these, I just cut it off at the ground, come in, just put several more layers of cardboard on it, and then put the weed chips back over. And I'm hoping eventually that it will finally smother it out. So then I know you saw my beehive. as I come by here. I've been hesitant to talk about the bees. I had very, very high hopes for the bees. I put a lot of time, energy, money into getting the beehive set up. You know, took some classes and bought all the equipment and thought I was good to go, and crashed on the bees. I don't even know what to say. I had super high hopes about it. I was extremely bummed out. I'll do a video on that another time, you know, the process that I went through, you know, and what I think happened. But I'm not giving up. You know, this is one of those things, you know, you really want to do something, you try, you fail, you learn, and then I'll just use what I learned this year to try again next year. That's all I can do. Another thing we have growing on our garden is this monstrosity thing behind me. Clay did dig this thing up in the spring and moved it, but this is hops, and it grows crazy. Like, we dug everything that we saw up, and it has really just taken over the fence again. So we have a ton of hops growing, and we don't make beer, so we have it. So these beds behind me that you see here, these are ones that we just built this spring. Clay built them for me. These are the log cabin style beds that I really like, and so our plan is to put these all around the outside of the garden, and then we're also, when we redo beds in the fall, we're going to put these type of beds in the garden as well. This has been a work in progress for many, many, many years. Now my greenhouse is made out of windows that we found, which I love. Flip it around here. So it's got all different types, sizes of windows. You can hear baby pigs in the background. They are hungry. I haven't fed them yet this morning. I don't have a lot growing in here right now. Everything has already been planted into the garden, but this area has been a huge, huge help with my garden. Now, we spend 9 months of our year here in Idaho, and then in the wintertime, we go to Florida and stay there. And so it's been a really big challenge for me to be able to get back here and get seeds started to get plants in the ground. And so having to start seeds so early here, if I did not have this little space here, it just wouldn't work. And I do have another video where I've talked about how I do start my seeds for our summers up here. And so if you wanna watch that, I'll just go ahead and put you know, something here, or down in the comments. I don't know where it's gonna be at right now, but there is a video on how I do that. We're gonna go ahead and head out this door to the new garden. And so it's really nice having a door on both sides of this so I can come in and out. All right, so we are at the new garden, and I know you're gonna say, Liz, you just said that you're not gonna do weed mat anymore because it's terrible for your soil. And if you turn around here, it is all weed mats. I know, I'm going against my rule here, but so, and I'll tell you why. So this area back here is first time being a garden. This was a field back here, and this is part of this back here, all right there, all this weed back here. We tilled this up for a garden too, and you can see how grown up it is versus the stuff that I put weed mat on. And that is exactly why I put the weed mat down here. I did not have the resources this year to be able to cover this entire area here with cardboard and straw. That is the goal for the fall, but to make it usable so we could use it, what we did is we went and we bought some very thin plastic, like a black plastic, it's almost like garbage bag material, and I got that from Growers Supply as well. And we put those down in rows, and then we just planted our plants straight, you know, just straight, done holes straight into this. That way we can control the weeds. It was the only way that we were going to be able to have a garden back here. So for the goal for this garden here is, once everything is out of this in the fall, where we are going to till it again, and we're going to plant a cover crop here for the winter. And then between now and next year, I'm just going to, you know, visit our recycle center a lot and make sure I have enough cardboard, and then we're gonna get straw from one of the farmers around here. And then come springtime, you know, we'll be able to till that cover crop in, you know, do, you know, what was basically what we've done in the other garden. We'll be able to put a layer of cardboard down, or a couple layers of cardboard down, and then put the straw straight onto there. And then we will have, you know, just plant straight into the cardboard and the straw, and this back here will be a no-till garden too. So one of the things I have changed this year about my tomatoes here, so normally every tomato plant I put in a round cage, and the problem I had with that was it just keeps the tomato bush so smushed in there. It was really hard getting the tomato out, and I've done that for years and years. And so this year I was like, I do not want that. I want to be able to get around every tomato bush and be able to get to the tomatoes. And so what we did this year, and I say we, Clay, he put T-post in here for me. So we have a couple T-posts down this row here, and then we have one, we have the anchor T-post right here. So we have these little rings here all the way. We have these little rings here down the wire, and then the wire comes and attaches, you know, at the bottom of the post here. And so we have 3 strands of this, and as these tomatoes grow up, I can, you know, put them on one side of the wire and then just tie these up. I have a couple that you can see how I'm doing that here. So here is one of the bigger tomatoes that we have, and so as it grows up the wire, you know, I'm just tying this to the wire as it goes. And that way I can walk down each side of these rows and pick tomatoes off of both sides, which I'm very, very excited about, being able to get to those. Now I have a lot of tomatoes planted this year. I think I have 70 something tomato plants planted, I think is what we ended up with. But we are out of all of our tomato products, so I needed really a bumper crop of tomatoes this year. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be a bumper crop of tomatoes because of our wet spring this year. It just made it really difficult to get things into the ground. And these seem like they are doing better, but they should be a lot bigger than this by now. So I'm not really sure how that's going to be. So I do have corn planted this year. And corn is one of those things that I just don't have good luck growing here. I don't know what it is. So if you don't know this about me, I am from the South. I grew up in Florida, and not the city part of Florida, the farming part, you know, country part of Florida. Being a Southern girl at heart, I love my Southern foods. And so this year I decided to grow this glorious little crop here of okra. This is kind of an experimental crop for me, and this was probably not the best year to have an experimental crop because it was so wet this year and I couldn't get it in the ground, and it just seems to be really cool this year. So we'll see how it does. It's called Jing Orange Okra, and it's supposed to be a very short day okra. This one here is. I think it's like a 30-day okra, but with our weather here, it's not going to be 30-day okra. But I am excited. It's tiny. Like, there's my hand. It's like, but if you look there, it does have tiny little blooms on it. There's some more. I'm so excited about it. There's some. So if that's exciting, and if it works out, that's like my first time planting okra here, which is super duper exciting. But I did 3 experimental crops, 3 southern crops this year. The second one, which is doing fabulous by the way, is this little tunnel back here behind me. And so what I did is I constructed this little tunnel here. I want to say it's 60 feet long. And I'll show you another one that we've got started over here. But what this is just PVC pipes. So what this tunnel here is, it's just made of PVC pipes, a 1/2-inch PVC pipes. They're 10 feet long, and then a roll of Visqueen. It is 100 feet long, I think 10 feet wide, 10 feet by 100. And so we planted all of these sweet potatoes in this black plastic stuff here, and then we made the hoop house over it. And you can see they are doing amazing. I'm so excited about these. I did plant 4 different types of sweet potatoes in here. I'm just trying to find out what worked best. And so if they keep growing like this and the potatoes are as amazing as the plants are, we'll have a bumper crop full of sweet potatoes. But this tunnel here keeps this super duper hot. I'm like, I close this up at night and open it during the day, but when you open this, it is just like steam that comes out of here. And that's what sweet potatoes love. They love hot, steamy, humid weather. And so this has worked amazing for my sweet potatoes. And then I have one more experimental crop. That experimental crop here are these peas. So I found these seeds at my dad's house, and these are pink eye purple hull. It is a southern crop, but it is an amazing, amazing pea. I love them. My kids love them. When we were talking about, you know, things that we wanted to grow in the garden, that's one of the things that they asked me. They said, will you please grow, you know, Papa's peas? And so that's what we're trying to do. I brought those seeds back and I planted them, and I'm not really sure how old they are. And so I don't know if it was because of the wetness, the temperature, or the seeds were just old, but only part of them come up. But I went back a couple days ago and then replanted, you know, the ones that didn't come up. So I'm hoping that we will get these peas. These are a shelling pea, and Clay always says, when am I gonna find time to shell these? You know, he says shelling peas were for, you know, people long ago when they didn't have anything to do but sit on the porch. But it's something that we really love, and I'm hoping that they do good. But you know, it is again an experimental crop, you know, so we'll just have to see how it works out. This here, we're in the process of constructing another one of the low tunnels over here. And so what I'm making the hoop house over back here is my peppers. Peppers are just not doing really good. Peppers like really hot, and we get into the 40s here at nighttime, and so they're just not growing as good as I think they should. And so I just went and got the stuff to make another hoop house. Hopefully that'll really give them the bump that they need to start growing really good, because I need lots of peppers. We eat lots of peppers. So I have the same construction here with the 3 lines. This is going to be for my peas. I have a 80-foot row of peas, and so I have 3 different types of peas on this row. This first pea here, that it's really big, they have like almost like a reddish tint to the stem. These are called Lady Di runners. These get like 12 feet long, and then they'll make a really pretty red pea flower. But this group here is just ones that most people have heard about, is Blue Lake pole beans. Pole beans, you know, they grow up. So we have those, a good section of those. And we actually need more. I'm getting ready to plant more of these in my smaller garden for the fall. We have Mr. Scarecrow. Finn named him, I think Bob. I think that's what his name is. I don't know. But then here I have the sugar snap peas. We have lots of peppers. I think I have, I want to say like we have 80 pepper plants. Some of those are habaneros. I hate habaneros. I refuse to touch a habanero or cook with a habanero, but Clay really likes them, and the good wife that I am, I planted him some habaneros, but he will be doing everything himself. I will not fool with habanero. This little section here, this is all of our winter squash. We have spaghetti squash, butternut squash. I have some like little mini blue Hubbards in here. I planted, there's acorn squash in here, and there's a new one I'm trying this year called a kabocha. I think it's pronounced kabocha. It makes kind of a smaller one. And then we have a red curry. It is a winter squash too. It makes like a, kind of like a cantaloupe size red squash. They store, you know, they store really well. Now I started my own cantaloupe seed this year, but the mice or the chipmunks, whatever it was, kept eating the seeds. And so I finally had to go buy cantaloupe. We love cantaloupe, but that's one of those things that just doesn't get super duper hot. This could really use a tunnel, but I don't have one. I actually do have some stuff. I might make a tunnel over here on this actually. So these plants back here are the kids' jack-o'-lantern pumpkins. These are Big Max variety. They make a very, very big pumpkin, one that I'm not going to want to keep to eat, you know, in the winter. And so those are strictly for jack-o'-lanterns. I'm hoping they do really good, because the kids love to make you know, jack-o'-lanterns. And then we have lots of potatoes. We don't eat a ton of potatoes, but it's a crop that stores really, really well, and so I like to have those on hand. And then this year we have a freeze dryer too, so I would love to, you know, shred those and make, you know, freeze-dried hash browns, so when we go camping and hiking and stuff, then we have hash browns. That would be very nice. And then last but not least, we have my onion plants. I have, as crazy as it sounds, I know, I started 700 onion plants this year, red onions and yellow onions. Some of those are for us to eat right away, you know, through the summertime. And then there are 3 different varieties here that are a long-term storage onion. We use a ton of onions. It seems like everything that we cook has an onion in it, and so grew lots of onions. It seems that we grow more onions every year. This is the biggest year yet, with 700 onions and 200 shallots planted. This is what keeps me so busy all the time, but I love it. I love getting out here, getting dirty, working in the garden. I love putting food away. And excited every year for the garden, you know, to see how it does, you know, what grows best, which is why I always grow several different varieties, you know, because one variety might do better than the others. But clay come out, so we're gonna get busy finishing up this tunnel that we have here to hope these peppers will grow a little bit better. And I guess I'm gonna wrap this up because I have lots to do today, lots of broccoli to put up, and I know the strawberries, lots of things to do. So I will see you next time.